But actually, so just for everyone who is tuning in for the first time or has not met Danelie before, because this is doobsnax and I's first time meeting you, Danelie, why don't you introduce yourself to the Unite Mike's crowd that's gathered here to watch this? Why don't you say who you are, what you do in the Unite community, all that good stuff.
Sure. So I guess for everyone that doesn't watch Pokemon Unite Asia, my name is Danelie and I represent, I guess, like the Asia region for Pokemon Unite. I've been doing most of the coverage over there with a couple of other guys, you know, the guys from last year, JJ, Permasnee's Moonboy, and then we've had some newcomers come into play as well. We've got Husky and Father. And yeah, so mainly us, we focus on the Asia region because we've got a completely different format to the rest of the world for some reason.
Yes.
I think to this day, all of us are still scratching our heads, but it is what it is. And yeah, we kind of just had to roll with it.
Well, I mean, roll with it you have. You now have 3 Worlds competitors from APAC West, of course, 3 from APAC East as well, which is pretty cool. Not many regions also only getting 3 slots as well. I think LATAM North is the only other region in the world that has like 3 shows in randomly. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. But Danelie, please describe, because you mentioned it, you have a very different format. Can you break it down for all of us UCS pilled Western folks? What are we looking at for the APAC region in terms of format for the year?
Yeah, so ours was vastly different to you guys because you had the point system and then you had the direct invite, which is the regional finals. So for Asia, we started much later than everyone else. I think our first tournament was in April. And so how it worked for Asia was that for you to qualify for Worlds, it would come down to placing top 3 at our regional finals. Now, to qualify for our regional finals, you had to place top 3 in the 3 tournaments leading up to the regional finals.
In one of those tournaments, right?
Yes, in one of them. If you qualified, then you didn't have to play in any more of the qualifiers. You were basically locked in. So it was the April tournament, May tournament, and then we had something called the Last Chance Qualifier. But there was a bit of a weird scenario with our qualifiers because all of a sudden, going into the regional finals, we had double the teams qualify due to a technicality with the system used to calculate points for the previous 2 tournaments. So we went from 8 teams to 16 teams, and we had to finish everything in 2 days of play. So we had the round robins happening on Saturday, and then we had the actual finals on Sunday, and everyone was exhausted. The broadcast only showed Sunday, but it was a really big struggle for a lot of the teams because they had to play more matches than they anticipated.
Right.
But I mean, we managed to get through it. I'm wondering, because of that change, did it impact the playoffs format? Because we had a best of 2 final. We don't do resets in Asia, in case anyone is wondering. We don't do resets. If you go into the final, we don't do resets.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was just.
Does Winterside have any advantage, like a game up or anything like that, or is it, at least first draft pick, first one? I guess that would be because you're higher seed.
No, actually, I'm just thinking. Did we have bracket resets? Maybe we did. Gosh, I'm not even 100% sure, but we don't really give advantages. There's no one game advantage. It's just, it's just there. So we didn't even get a best of 5 for our finals, which I was a little bit sad about because, you know, even if it's 3-0, it would have been an extra game. But yeah, we kind of just had that. It was pretty late at night as well. I think for all the tournaments that led up to the regionals, we would end around 11 to 12 o'clock. And that's assuming we didn't have too many games that went for the full three games. And then if there was any technical issues, we had to provide extra time for that too.
Right.
And that does happen every now and again in Unite. I think everyone's aware of that.
Yeah,
so.
In this game, I don't know, actually. Yeah. Yeah, we tend to have to fill for those a little bit too.
And then something else, and I'm not sure if it's the same with you guys, and I'm not sure if it was APAC also or if it was just Japan, but there was this very weird technicality when it came to drafting, where if you were playing on the Switch, if anyone on your team was playing on the Switch, how the teams would have to draft is that everyone would have to get on mobile, draft in mobile, and then you'd have to remake the lobby with your desired device.
No shot. That is
insane.
Awful.
So I think, because I saw the rulebook for this, and I was just like, mind blown. But I came to the conclusion that they must have done this to try and lower the amount of times that someone may potentially crash or there's some kind of game issue.
Right.
But it was just a lot. There were a lot of hoops, and I just thought, like, oh my goodness. Like,
I would rather put together an Excel spreadsheet and do the draft than that. Like, that is wild. Like, get an admin into a Google Sheets each game and do that, then, oh my god. Yeah, mobile diff, honestly. Yeah, that's true.
It was bizarre.
That is bizarre.
I wasn't sure if it was the same thing you guys.
Bizarre is not the word I would use. I'd use something a bit more harsh, I think. Good night.
Yeah. We had I mean, we had mandated like reset the switch between every game. Like that was definitely given to players. But yeah, I mean, the amount of times that a Switch player, the menu UI just slows down to a standstill while you're trying to switch with players or select items and stuff. I mean, I get it, but that is a really wild thing you had to do. Do you know if that was in every region, like in TPC regions, like APAC, Japan, Korea? Was that the same way that they did that?
I think it, because assuming this was the Asia rulebook that I was looking at, so I would assume that they would have probably had to enforce it for all of Asia. Like, it just doesn't. Again, it just doesn't make sense to have different rules for different regions because we're all playing under the same rule set. I mean, we've even got the different bans from you guys. Like, we were allowed to play almost all of the restricted Pokemon from UCS. I think the only exceptions were Pokemon that were just released and Zacian, because I think Zacian was the only one that people could really justify banning at that point. It was just
well, hey, thank you ACL for proving that point to the world that Pokemon needed to go away for a while. Okay, so bans wise for this tournament, it was Zacian was banned. Was Blastoise banned at this time, or was that May finals? I can't remember. I think that was like May finals where Blastoise had a specific moveset that was banned in Asia, but
I think the moveset may have... Was it still banned at this point? Because I know Blastoise was picked. Okay. It was used.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I'm just wondering, was it fixed before the finals?
I think it had to be. I think Blastoise was fixed at that point, if I can remember correctly. But it was a long time ago now. I mean, your tournament was it was a minute ago. I mean, it was around the same time that almost every regional had their final.
It was after EUIC, right? Yeah, because I know for us there was a lot of influence from EUIC in our regional finals.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, a lot of the players from Asia, big fans of EU and NA, so they take a lot of inspiration over there. So yeah, it was after EUIC. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that's cool to see regions. I mean, kind of influencing each other a little bit. Now we're gonna get into the game very shortly here, but I have to ask, Danelie, when you are looking at APAC West and you're looking at the rest of the regions in the world, before we actually start watching the games, so doobsnax and I can start throwing around our opinions as we'd like to do. How do you feel like APAC West stacks up? Like, is it gonna be a bit of an underdog story for APAC West at Worlds? Or you think they're one of the top contenders? How about just in Asia too? Like, where do you think these rosters kind of stack up there? So you're sending 3 teams.
Okay, so we've got 3 teams. Just to reiterate for anyone that hasn't followed APAC West at all. So our 3 representatives are Team MIS, which is a Malaysia-Singapore team.
Cool.
We have, oh my gosh, they're my favorite team. RRQ, this is a all-Indonesian squad. And then we have...
very good, from what I have seen.
Very good.
RRQ is very fun to watch.
So good. I've got so many good things to say about them.
Cool.
And then the underdog of our region is the team from Thailand, and they're called Cakelock.
Okay, that's how you pronounce that name. That name rules. Doobsnax and I are big fans of like team names or like gamer names that go wild. Cakelock, amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a meaning behind it, but that team is absolutely whack. I'm a big fan because during the regional finals, they pulled out a no support, no healing strat. And the 2 cool Pokemon that actually led that strat was Lucario and Zoroark. It was just a deadly duo assassination combo that just literally ran around the map and went ham. Yeah. But to be fair, in the same game, they were also up against support Pikachu and Desi. So it was a really whack series. I recommend it. Go back and watch the series. It was insane. Yeah, we've got some pretty interesting players. We're not really afraid to try things. I say we, I'm not really the players, but they're very comfortable when it comes to trying new things. We do have, or at least the teams in particular, they have their own signature styles, but after having some discussions with them leading up to Worlds, they're really trying to expand their pool of playable Pokemon to increase like their pool of strategies that they want to execute. I haven't had a chance to really talk to Cakelot just because I haven't had the opportunities with them, but MYS and RRQ, amazing guys. If you have a chance to talk to them, they are full of knowledge. They're happy to share this information.
Oh, wonderful. I mean, yeah, I'm very, very excited to see them play in the world stage. But let's jump into the grand finals. Let's start watching some games. I think this will be really fun. So, obviously, at this point in the tournament, these teams have all already qualified for Worlds. By getting top 3, you qualify for that spot. Of course, there's no championship points, so just making it to this echelon of the bracket already secures you that invite. However, I don't know. These teams definitely seem like they were still playing for some regional victory style pride. Do you think that is true, Danelie?
So they were additionally playing for prize money. So I think first, yes, it was a big lump sum of money. So our rewards were the travel award, of course, to first place, but first place also gets $15,000 on top of that.
There you go.
So spending money, I suppose, if you want to put it that way. So of course, like, why wouldn't you pay for that much? And both teams, I knew RRQ and MYS, like, I know MYS have been to Japan, but both teams, they love Japan. Obviously, afterwards, they're going to probably go on holiday and spend some time to visit. So it was like pocket money to to enjoy Worlds. Yeah, for sure.
That's sweet. Yeah, so 15,000 to first. I think NA. I think the Western regions we had 20,000 to first. Is that right? Yeah, because regional finals each had $50,000 in each one. So yeah, pretty close to the same one either direction. But cool. Well, let's jump into our first game. So, time as we're ready to turn down the casters, even though they are amazing. I just
Rebonks and Yang.
Yeah, a couple of returning
familiar names.
Eri and Kamiru also in this tournament. Unfortunately, did not make it to the top 3. They're playing on different teams, but yeah, not quite making it in this tournament. But we're gonna get to see some new faces, some old faces. Yeah. So. This draft I've seen a little bit. I guess I spoiled myself when I was searching for where the grand finals started this tournament. This already is wild. Mew Chandelure banned, and what is happening? Why are attackers becoming like ban priority? Like, are these like pocket picks from either of these teams? What are we looking at here?
Okay, so the Mew is an absolute pocket pick for Foxy. So for people that aren't aware, Nightmare Foxy, his signature Pokemon is legitimately Mew.
Cool.
So if you give Mew to Foxy, you know this man's going to play at his full capacity.
Sick.
On the other side of the spectrum, right, we've got Chandelure ban. This is a respect ban to Axecute. Axecute is probably one of the scariest attackers I have seen in the region thus far. He even might be the best at the moment because he's so flexible. He plays multiple attackers at such a high level. And it's really hard to get to him as well because I feel like RRQ do such a good job in making sure that Axecute is in the right position at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's also difficult for MYS because you only get one ban.
Right.
But they have to really consider at that time what's really the best option. And I think even though Chandelure's out of the picture, like he's got Alola Ninetales. Axecute has been playing Alola Ninetales for the entirety of the tournament. Like, I was wondering, like, what else could you do to stop him aside from taking Ninetales yourself?
Yeah. Okay, so, all right, doobsnax, you had some thoughts on this draft, I'm sure.
Okay, yes. Where is the best defender in the game? I guess second best, because I guess Lapras is in the mix already.
Especially because this is like
pre-nerf
Lapras as well.
Cartoonish.
First pick Glaceon.
This is Banana Lands. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at here. This is crazy. I can't wait to get into these games. Because I knew we were leaning into doing this, so I didn't want to spoil the games for myself either. So I didn't watch them all, which normally I would have already. This is hilarious, but in like the coolest way possible. Like the metagames that develop within the metagames, right? Once you understand pocket picks and all that stuff that as you were breaking down, Danelie, I mean, that's how you get to what we're seeing on the screen right now.
Yeah.
New grand final situation too. I think RRQ's comp actually like really makes sense to me, right? You have that triple support defender style core built around Axecute. So Axecute should be untouched in this game.
Yeah.
Like, no one should be able to get within sneezing distance of this Alolan Ninetales. So, and then you just have Dodrio doing Dodrio things. The thing to me is, I mean, Rebongs is great. I just don't really know what Hoopa does for this comp. I mean, like, meta rotations, that's great, but like very few people are gonna survive long enough to like pop off on resets. I don't know. Hoopa it's like a lot of confidence in the Hoopa pick just in general, I think. They're like, it's gonna be good.
There's a lot going on with the draft, and I think, like, if you're an outsider, you're a bit confused as to, like, what's really going on. So I can give you, like, a quick rundown, actually, to explain some of the stuff.
Yeah.
So the first pick, Glaceon pick for Team NYS, that's firstly to not only lock in Foxy's Pokemon, but that's also to deny it from Eeyore, because the thing with RRQ is that Eeyore, he plays a really big role for the team in being that tempo controller. And some of his best Pokemon are Dodrio. Even worse is Glaceon. He also plays Urshifu. So these are like his 3 big Pokemon. And they have to make the decision like, okay, what can we give him that we can deal with? And I think all tournament, Glaceon has been a big issue when teams have given that away to Eeyore. And even Axecute can play it as well. So you have to make that decision like, okay, do we actually have to take it ourselves? Yeah. And of course, like, Foxy already had his Mew taken away, and he has played Glaceon in the past. So it's like, now we're starting to see what the game looks like when you have to deny a pick. You have to take things away from your opponents, or you have to think ahead and be like, okay, these are available. What can we give them? And Glaceon for NYS, like, they obviously did not want to give that to RRQ at that point of time.
Cool.
And Necro is also a really good Blastoise player. Really fantastic with his Hydro Typhoon placements. It's actually kind of insane how he's able to play Blastoise and not have a bad game. Like, that's something that I find really astounding.
Yeah, Blastoise is a really strong pick for that. I think one of the most consistent Pokemon you have, but when you have a good player, it feels that much different. I like the Lapras Innovate at the start. That's really cool from RQ. Into Kubfu, that feels really strong. You're running EXP share.
Is that a stacking Clefable too?
Actually, I don't remember
either that.
Go back, but yeah.
Yeah,
I have to imagine it is.
Just wanted to see if somebody caught it. Just the play pattern early. I mean, this is very fun to watch, to be quite honest, because this is a very kitchen sink approach, specifically on the rec side, right? It's very built into place where it wants to be. And I do like how Team MYS went with the Rapid Strike Urshifu, because that is a way to engage past the front line that they're trying to build, whereas the Wicked Strike would have no real opportunity to do that. So I think that's a good tilt in that direction for sure.
I think it's risky into Blastoise late game, but like early, it's sick. And I mean, Yang's playing it really well. He's very, very aggressive early. It's gonna pay off now. You just gotta hope that rolls over well enough until later.
Oh gosh, excuse me. I know Water Bear has been the most popular out of the two variants over here, mostly just because of that early game pressure. And MYS as a team, they generally love to play hyper aggressive as well. So they want to be in your face. They want to be at those objectives. That's also one of the main reasons why MYS are really big on the Hooper pick. But I also spoke to Rebongs about it, and he said that they were hoping before regionals to be able to have someone else actually like play that Hooper. But at the time, I think he was the only one that was really capable of playing it, and the team really valued the pick. So it just makes me wonder, like, what kind of differences would we have seen if NYS were able to get someone else to play that Hooper?
Because Rebongs and Yang last year at the World Championship, I mean, they were Zarina and Venusaur, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they were like hyper carrying the squad.
Yeah, so back at ACL, at certain moments, Rebongs did pivot between different roles as well for the team. I'm not sure if this one was ACL during the finals, but we've seen him play Central Lane Absol. He's played Tyranitar. So he does flex between multiple roles, but he really seems for the team to be playing that like really backbone supporter for the team, especially when they need to have that Hooper pick. And again, like you're already starting to see like that hyper aggression coming from NYS. Like they're trying to shut down RRQ. And that's because RRQ is really good going into the late game. Like they're so good at secures. Their positioning around the Ray Pit is so important as well. And so for MYS, like their job this game is to cripple them as much as possible before that 2-minute mark.
This is also really tough for Eero and Dodrio. Like, I'm looking across to
Mhm.
the other side that MYS has drafted. I mean, very few Pokemon can this Dodrio realistically 1v1, right? Mime just
Mhm.
puts a wall in front of you can't escape. Glaceon's passive's hard to deal with. Urshifu's just going to press Unite on you or Surging Strike you. Like, there's not many great targets. So I think Tri-Attack's a good, like, option here. But it's like, I don't know. There's nothing that, like, Eeyore can just take over the game with, at least easily on paper. That's a huge surf, though. What a cool play. I like that a lot.
It's really good. That was
Yeah.
really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, for RRQ, it's just a defending game at this point. You know, make sure Axeq's got his farm, Necro's going to be able to hit that Blastoise at a reasonable hour.
Yeah.
And yeah, really just setting up for the 2-minute mark. But I feel like that's one of the things when it comes to the Asia game. Sometimes it's not so much about what people are doing for the first 8 minutes. Everyone in Asia understands that it really all comes down to the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
The first 8,
pressure.
yeah, it's like 20% to 80%, right? 80% of the game is that late game.
Yeah, where dreams are made of, for sure.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you talked a lot about how like comfort picks, or just rather like, oh wow, nice Hydro Typhoon hit. Yeah, you're right. They are in perfect position. They hit like all 4. That was really cool. But you're talking about how like the like counter drafting is like a really big like part of this region, APAC West. Like it's very important. Do you think that that's gonna like go into Worlds? Like is that gonna be a big part of like RRQ or Team MYS's like prep? Is okay, we have to shut down this team. They do these picks. This is how we'll counter draft them. We're flexible enough to play whatever ends up on our side because of that? Or do you think at Worlds it's going to be a little bit of a different story and they're going to need to slow down a bit and try to play a bit more careful?
So knowing these teams, I've seen them in a situation where they're playing up against people that they're not familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for us especially, once they're comfortable with somebody, they really start to hammer down on like those comfort picks, denying your comfort bans. But before that, they'll play much safer. They'll try and focus on their own comfort picks to make sure they've got their best Pokemon, and they will use those games as like a way to get a feel of how their opponents play. You know, is this an aggressive team? Are they the ones that make the calls? What are the problematic Pokemon in game number 1? How can we adjust to it to game number 2?
Mm-hmm.
We also don't know how much information they have as well going into Worlds, because really, like, what do we have to really work with, right? Like, you've only got Unite DB, which gives you as much information as it can. You've got VODs from the past regionals, and then the fact that we're going to have more Pokemon that'll be playable at Worlds as well. Like, the meta's going to be vastly different.
It is going to be crazy different. Yeah, I'm really excited for it. I was watching some scrims earlier today with Inteleon and Leafeon, and it's a different world out there. I'm excited.
So I think the teams in Asia, we will definitely go into the tournament much safer. But I did get some information that some of these teams are going to be in Japan like 1 or 2 weeks before Worlds, scrimming with the other teams that are there. So there's a good chance they're probably going to get a feel of each other that way as well.
Cool.
So yeah, lots of prep time. I know RRQ are really, really scrimming. I mean, I saw on, I think it was like Eeyore and Necro's Instagram yesterday, like the team, they're in a team house, they're scrimming on the TV monitor. They've even got like the score screen of like a game. So I guess they were like VOD reviewing as well. So they're really practicing. I'm not quite sure what's happening with MYS because the team's just generally much more hush-hush.
Sure,
but yeah, RRQ are definitely taking it really seriously.
Oh,
love
exciting.
to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, got the travel award, you got some cash to spend, you may as well make it worth it. I like
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, like you can see, right? Objectives, MYS, they're just trying to deny everything from RRQ, right? Because they want to get as big as they can going into that late game. Like this is a really big trend with MYS. Very early game team, whereas you've got RRQ that bides their time. They're happy to play defensive as long as they're prepped and ready to go in that raid pit. And if they can get into position as well. I think the few times that RRQ have fallen short when it comes to those raid fights is if they're the ones that make that critical mistake going into the raid fight. Generally speaking, they're very clean. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you can catch them with their pants down, like that's really when you can start to see the team crumble. Very, very communication focused. Like this team is constantly communicating.
Cool.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Man, you got the Mime on D, Buzz ready to hop in, get that burger in.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good surf, though, by Necro. Right out there, called out the Urshifu and Hoopa. That's Rebonks and Yang. Called them out of that bush immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great bush check. So, okay, Buzzwole scores. So they know they're, like, super behind now. Hydra doesn't really get much for that. Okay, great. Necro hits
Hydra
everybody.
Oh man, yeah, 4-player Hydra Typhoon. The only reason Urshifu didn't get hit because they weren't there yet. Oh man,
it's just good target priority too, right? Also, Zoe at this point on their Clefable is at like 4 or 5 stacks. We did confirm they were stacking. So Moonlight is just doing absurd amounts of healing right now, which is with double defender is so strong.
Yeah, so I feel like one of the big things in this fight here was that RRQ, because this is not the first time NYS have been running Hooper. I think NYS have been running Hooper for the entirety of the qualifiers, for their regional games as well, and RRQ have seen enough of it. And there was a reason why the entire team was grouped up in the Ray fight. They knew they had the advantage once they knew where Rebongs was, right? As soon as he pops the rings unbound, they know where the Boswell's going to be coming in. He should be coming in through that portal. And so because they camped on top of him, there was nothing Boswell was able to do in that game. Like, he came in, he blew up. What can you really do, right? Against a Hydro Typhoon, you can't walk into it. And so NYS, they actually were really spread out as well. Froggy was busy guarding that top lane. So I think in this game in particular, NYS had built up such a lead for themselves that they didn't consider the possibility that ultimately the late game control was really in RRQ's hands with the Hydro Typhoon. Right? Like, having such a big unite around such a small area and having a predictable ability such as that Rings Unbound be able to be like, okay, someone's going to come out of here, get ready to blow them up. You're basically setting up for a KO.
Yeah, that's true. Yang kind of having a game, but I mean, other than that, yeah, that's a tough spot to be put in. Okay, talk to me about Mr. Mime. Is APAC West playing a lot of Mime?
No. So this is just a Froggy signature pick.
Okay, got it.
So Froggy, I think he hasn't played a lot recently. I was quite surprised he brought it out. But he is probably one of the best Mr. Mime players in Asia. He really left a mark on me, I think, during the initial Malaysia qualifiers for ACL last year. So I know he plays a lot of Mr. Mime. I don't know if he's been playing it recently, but I think they were kind of hoping that they could make something work with his Mr. Mime. But yeah, it was just, it kind of, I guess, showed the fact that Mr. Mime is just really out of the picture. Like, this Pokemon just doesn't really fit in the meta right now. Didn't provide a lot of utility for the team. I mean, he was really running barrier. So like, what could he really do for the team? Yeah, I think in this case, like, they just wanted to see, like, okay, what can we do with this Mr. Mime? Like, does it blow up? And yeah, it just didn't work in this game, unfortunately.
Also, big shout out to Gatlu for the huge raid. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Interesting. I don't know if you know this question, Danelie, but how does APAC feel about Inteleon at the moment? Do you know? It's pretty new to competitive, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I haven't actually spoken to anyone about Inteleon yet. I mean, to be completely fair, I've seen a lot of videos and pictures of people playing it, so I think there's a lot of experimentation going on. But
that's
yeah,
APAC
I haven't
West
heard
middle name. They're all about the experimentation. I'm excited.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I just think it's probably not going to be too big for APAC, just because if Desi wasn't really a thing for us, then Inteleon probably isn't going to be either. We generally like to play those more mobile mage-like Pokemon, rather than having, like, those backline snipers. But who knows, maybe someone can prove me wrong, actually come up and be like, hey, I can go PP too.
Yeah. Anything you can do, I can also do. Okay, these are really cool, by the way. I like your info card graphics. I think they're really cool. We're gonna broadcast. I think it looks sweet. It's really cool.
Yeah, so all the info cards here, I think these are all stats that happened like that day. It wasn't before the regional final playoffs. It was like the information for that day. So it kind of gives us like a really good glimpse of what they played. Because we weren't even able to cast all of the games for our playoffs. I think it was like 30 total games or something in the day, and we were only able to cast 6 of them.
Yeah.
So we only got like a fraction of the action, which I was kind of sad about. But we were limited time, limited manpower. Like, we couldn't really do much about it.
Gotcha. Why is RRQ in first draft spot again?
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, how it works for us is that the loser gets to pick if they want first pick or last pick.
Cool. I like that actually.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. I really like that. I'm surprised that MYS chose second though. I mean, I guess you get to, if you're banning Chandelure again, you don't get the best defender, but you get Urshifu plus whatever you want. I guess is their draft strategy here. So
it could also be that they want that last pick spot, because I know in some cases they do go for that last pick Foxy Pokemon, because sometimes they want to have that surprise factor and have it not be counted per se.
Right.
But yeah, it also depends, I guess, on like what their first two picks are and what the draft is going to be for RRQ. Because I know that MYS, they are sometimes quite reactive when it comes to the drafting stage. Okay. It was pretty apparent during ACL as well.
Yeah. Okay, so they take the Blastoise. I like that a lot. That's a really cool shake up from MYS. You keep the Hoopa, but also Hoopa Blastoise is a great combo. I love this combination. Really cool.
Yeah, but in the process, they've given Eeyore Glaceon. That's the one thing that I'd be a little bit worried about. I knew in this tournament, RRQ prioritized Lapras. Like, that was always going to be their first pick. It was just that second pick was generally going to at least be Glaceon for Eeyore. So I saw this and I just thought like, oh my gosh, I hope MIS have something in mind for this Glaceon, because he's just going to pop off, especially when you're paired up with a Alola Ninetales as well. So much zoning between these two Pokemon.
And worth noting that in our region, you couldn't play Icicle Spear.
Yeah, at this time, yes, you are correct.
Yep. Yeah, we are allowed to. So
which is significantly different, and an important note, as I realize now why Glaceon had such a higher pick prio than it does on our side, is because of that specifically.
That's true. Okay, Doobsnax, you need to go preach the good word of Slowbro to APAC West, okay? I don't know
it's such a good Pokemon.
Going on.
You know how you shut down a Glaceon? Slow Beam.
Yeah, that'll work.
You know how you shut down anything? Slow
Just
Beam.
A Unite move, you know? It's fine. It's just a Unite move.
The best one of the game. Okay, I really like RRQ's draft though. I mean, double defender, double attacker. I mean, they don't have Blastoise or utility, so you just grab Trev. Also, this region loves Assault Vest. 2 Assault Vests on the side of RRQ. I guess it looks better into this comp than it did the last one, actually. So cool.
I mean, we do some pretty crazy stuff. They do catch someone off guard.
I think Assault Vest is a decent spot, like especially into the enemy composition. And I guess Urshifu is the only one doing attack-based damage. However, Urshifu just ignores all your defenses anyways. So it's like it's not like you should be building into physical defense at all. Interesting. Okay. Well, game number 2, RRQ, stay on that side. Let's see. Does Lapras do the same thing? I have to imagine.
Well, I guess they're going to have to look at the lane matchups as well, right? They know Cupfu's going to go mid. And then I think once they see it's just Bulbasaur and Mime, they'll be like, oh yeah, we can probably cut this. Like, who's going to contest a Lapras down at that point?
It's a good counter rotation by MYS as well. Like, you take Mime out of the lane early to cover against invades. They watch the lane. Hoopa gets the other one, and then Hoopa gets red buff. Like, that's a really good adaptation by MYS in game number 2. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And then again, you can see they're just trying to deny whatever they can that bottom lane. So poor little Clefairy gonna go down. I'm not too happy about that one. But I mean, like, for RRQ, like, they kind of don't care about some of these early game KOs, as well as their core players are getting their levels, right? So as long as they're able to get Eeyore to that level 4 for Glaceon, which he is, and Alola Ninetales is online, like, this bottom lane is terrifying. There's so much zone, there's so much poke, and look at what MIS have. What do you defend against this? Like, you're gonna like hold up your Bulbasaur and be like, all right, here, take him. Just don't take me.
Yeah, I mean, Bulbasaur early game, like, no central given over to Bulbasaur. That poor Foxy. It's tough scene. So okay though, Razor Leaf gets a couple secures. Let's go. They get 5. That's important.
Yeah. And then up top, you can see MYS, they're really focusing on that top lane, right? Because you've got some really difficult Pokemon up there that you wanted to shut down. Like Tree is a really tough Pokemon. You want to try and deny him that level 5, the evolution. Absolutely. He does evolve though, so you can see like, all right, we're going to have to pivot down instead to try and assist that bottom lane and go for the push. Now, the issue here is that MYS, if they're going to win this early game, they really, really need to beat down on RRQ early, because RRQ have gotten some of their best Pokemon. They've got so much, they've got so much range, so much zone, and frontline to buffer for that backline, that you have to crush them during the early game if you want to have a chance going into that Rayquaza fight. And so you can see here, 8-minute fight, again, NYS prioritizing their objectives. No big fight, just respect. They're scared.
It almost feels like they missed their opportunity to keep RRQ from getting online, because their composition this game is so much faster than it was in game 1. Whereas game 1, you could really see how they were stressing them kind of at the 8 to 6 minute mark. But it almost seems like they're past that now. I mean, they've hit all their evolutions. They're feeling good. They're turtling up. I mean, it almost seems like MYS missed the boat here.
Yang did get a cool invade. Like, he took red buff, right? So he might hit 9 before this next fight. No, it's only 8.5. I mean, it's a tough spot. But at least A9 didn't hit 9, I guess. That would be more concerning.
You mean 8?
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
8's rough too.
That's what I said.
8's a rough number as well. Okay, interesting. But yeah, I think you're right, doobsnax. I mean, at this point, Lapras is going to start just becoming a lawnmower. Like, this Pokemon is so strong. Oh, Venusaur! Okay. I like
Foxy,
that, actually.
It's always Venusaur. It would never be Pedal Dance if it's Foxy playing that Venusaur.
Okay.
But yeah, this fight, I mean, okay. Okay, they got it, but like, are they going to be able to get anything big from it?
40.2.
All right.
But
that was the best Hoopa reset we've seen in a game and a half or whatever. So
yeah, doobsnax has been on his Hoopa arc, so he understands the ins and the outs now.
No, I don't, but I know sending back multiple Pokemon from getting knocked out is good. I do know that. Another stack for Clefable. We moving out here.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like trying to count Clefable stacks this whole game. I'm like, okay, the healing is astronomical. Yeah, all right. So we've hit 4 or 5. Good to hear.
I still wish that they update the UI to show like who's stacking and how many stacks they're at, because it's like this information's kind of
client. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
One thing I've seen Japan do in their broadcasts, and it's not like UI based, like it's definitely added by whoever's running their broadcast, is just adding battle items onto like these little pictures, the icons that we have. So like eject button or full heal, like whatever this Pokemon's running. I always think that's really cool when they do add that. But yeah, seriously, I don't know if RRQ has gotten a Reggie either side this entire match. Like, you're right. MYS is just so focused on getting those last hit secures. Like,
yeah, I don't think they care.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, they really don't at all. I mean, Glaceon and Alone the Ninetales don't need levels. Like, theoretically, you hit 4, you're fine. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
You hit Alone the Ninetales at 6, you're okay. Like, they're okay giving these up as long as they don't like give landslide scores over to the other side of MYS.
Yeah, as long as you're not letting MYS snowball, RQ are happy to just sit back on their heels and be like, all right, like whatever, we'll fight you if we need to, but it's not really a necessity at this point of time. Yeah. But I mean, even in this fight, yeah, they're making that push happen. But like, look, the tree comes in, she just shoves everybody, and that's it. It's basically over. You don't really gain much out of this from MIS. If anything, you're giving this experience away to RRQ. Like, this is how RRQ generally play. Like, they sit back, they give the experience to their opponents, and then they just farm their opponents. Like, that's how they generally get a lot of their farm.
The old farm your opponent strategy. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good strat. I like it.
And then that just gives them a big opening to get this Reggie for themselves. So, I mean, we'll have to see if the steal happens here for MYS, but nah. RRQ's got it. That's going to set MYS back, especially with how MYS are playing this game.
Yeah. If that Registeel didn't walk towards the Glaceon, Solar Beam 100% gets that. Gets that Registeel, by the way. I am like so confident, but that Registeel just walked like 2 meters out of the way and dodged the attack at that moment. It's cool though. I think Foxy's playing this Venusaur really well. It's cool to see Venusaur, like Beamosaur, actually like popping off these days. I mean, obviously NAIC was a good showing for that Pokemon, so it's cool to see kind of a return to form for it.
Yeah, this isn't the first time he's played Beamosaur as well. I think they also brought it out during one of their games in the ACL finals against High Five. Cool. So he is very, very happy to play this if he needs to, but he prefers Mew Solar Beams. You know, they hit harder.
You hit harder, you get him earlier. That Pokemon's blessed. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I know we've been talking about MYS, like, or RQ.carry. I love MYS's like macro play here. I mean, you're going down at 3 minutes. Who cares? Like, whatever. You're going to give up Rachel like it's going towards tier 1. You're getting huge scores in on the other end. Hoopa literally might ult here into the enemies. No, it'd be too early. But still, scoring in home base, like, you have a crazy big lead, and you have Hoopa, and you have a home goal zone open. Like, MYS has the textbook, like, we don't care about Ray, we can just score on the enemy side strat right now.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
The setup. Like, this is something that I like about, this is something I like about the team. Like, they're open to pulling off some of these really crazy strats that you just don't see anywhere else. And I feel when they pull off some of the crazy strats, you can see sometimes it's a bit unpolished. They don't get to do it very often. So it's more of like they're also exercising and practicing this while they're doing it at the same time. But if I feel if they can clean it up and really figure out the ins and outs of what these next level strats are going to do, I feel like these are going to be such big things that are going to surprise so many people at Worlds this year. Because we don't really see too many of these kinds of plays. We see a reset, but again, like another objective for Reggie Rock going to RQ and Ray's about to spawn. I mean, the team's got buffs, they're good to go. Both of their hyper carries are down and ready. Like, I was so scared going into this late game for MYS. So I was sitting, I was praying, are we going to get a game 3?
Oh, like, you're just going to try to out-secure Glaceon with Icicle Spear. That's bugged. Like, that's so hard.
And A9 as well. Like, you've got probably two of the best securers in the game right now, because it's not Dark Urshifu.
Yeah. He gets sold. Well, yeah, not for long, though. Yeah, unfortunate for Venusaur, got totally isolated there.
Buckled here.
That's a spot. And then Yang's just frozen, bubble beam, shut down for life. Like, oh, dodge.
Yeah, so this is a really tough game for MYS. Like, they're basically just hanging on for dear life at this point. And you've got, I mean, with the remaining Pokemon on the field, any chance of out-secure unless RRQ makes like the biggest mistake on planet Earth. I just don't see MYS being able to snatch us away.
Too early.
Yeah.
Too early. I wanted it. Unfortunate. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, RRQ played that so well. I think your description of them just like waiting for the enemy mistakes is so on point. Like, they are really good at that. They know what their comp wants to do, but they know exactly where they excel. They just waited, found when MYS split up a little bit, froze Yang into oblivion with Glaceon, Alola Ninetales, Lapras Bubble Beam, and just like slowed him down. And that was a really crazy combo.
Yeah. Something I guess I do want to sort of mention here is that the MYS that we're seeing here, I feel, is mentally shaken. We've seen people all over the region, we've seen MYS really pop off, like when they have those really clean days. So they have those really clean games and they just absolutely dominate. I kind of felt going into this grand finals that losing that first game really shook them up. And the fact that this mentality sort of followed them into game number 2, it just made it really difficult for them to recover and be able to sort of deal with RRQ's favorite Pokemon, right? Like, they just didn't have the best solutions when it came to dealing with A9 and Glaceon together. That's being protected by a freaking Lapras. Like, they can't even get past Lapras and Trevenant. So it was
trying to shoot past, right, with like Foxy Solar Beams, but it just never really worked out to that point. I honestly, I know that Mr. Mime's a pocket pick. I would have liked a defender like even Trevenant. That's like a little more aggressive, that can clear some more space. However, Trevenant just not good in a Glaceon to Alola Ninetales. That would have been a tough ask. So yeah, interesting. I think Snorlax would have been alright. It's gone, but cool. I mean, what a cool grand final. The RRQ obviously popping off. Let's take a look at the final ones, but yeah, 80,000 from Yemu and Blastoise is pretty good. You just keep rapid spinning into Lapras and Trevenant. Start doing some
130,000 damage recovered.
Zoe's cooking.
Zoe was off the charts. They did have a really good. Somebody pointed out in chat, Casino, that Zoe specifically had 2 very good support Ray fights in games.
Yeah.
Really keeping everybody intact long enough for the tides to turn, which is obviously exactly what you expect out of your high-level support player. But worth noting, as I am a large fan of support and defender players. So
I've honestly wanted to like pick up a little more Clefable play now that I'm watching like good Clefables play. Like honestly, I have I've normally not enjoyed playing that support very much. I just think it's a little too autopilot sometimes. But like you get Moonlight Plus, you're stacked up. Like watching good Clefables play, it's pretty fantastic. It's fun to watch. And then of course randomized Unite is pretty fun.
Oh gosh, that was the one thing I hate about Clefable.
Yes,
great Pokemon. I just can't handle the Unite.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, Clefable is really popular for Asia. Yeah, I know a lot of our teams really love to pick that Pokemon up.
Yeah, it's it's good, especially to double defender. It's a great draft. Like I think that is that's really cool. All right, well, Danelie, before we head off, well, we're gonna leave pretty soon. We'll probably get some questions in from chat in a little bit, but I did want to ask you about the team that we didn't get to spectate here on this. So we talked a lot about how MYS is one of those very aggressive teams, very objective minded. RRQ, I think a lot of their strengths are in their draft. They looked really fantastic to me from what I saw, and of course their just coordinated team play is excellent. How about the third team from APAC West? What do you think are kind of some like shining moments from them that we should be looking forward to seeing at Worlds?
I think one of the, I guess the biggest shining moment of the team is the fact that they're literally a dark horse. Cool. There is almost no information on these players going into Worlds. Couple of things that we do kind of know is that they are constantly sitting on top of the leaderboard. They've got massive numbers when it comes to their MMR. So cool. High-ranked players, they definitely play unorthodox. They play some really strange picks, but I mean, I'm a big fan. They made me a big fan.
What are they playing? Are they like Zero Aura? What's happening?
Yeah, well, not Zero Aura, but actually, did they play Zero Aura? I kind of feel like they did pull it out at one point. But I mean, they play Zorak. They're, cool. I think the one guy people are going to have to look out for is Mark God. This man, I think he's earned the name God in his name. He plays a amazing Lucario. Pops off, even though Lucario has just been like in the gutter for the past couple months.
Okay.
So yeah, amazing player. Also plays really great Zorak. I think he's the top laner for the team.
Cool.
But yeah, just so scary. I mean, like if there's someone that you just kind of want to look at for Kakaluk, like just if you see Mark God, you can just watch him all game. I think he'll be great.
Sick.
Really, really fun plays, but very aggressive. I think that's like another key factor with that team in general. Like, they don't play like RRQ. I guess they're like a even more aggressive version of MYS.
Sure.
But the issue is that they do get a little bit scrappy at times. Like, you know, when you get a little too aggressive, you've overstepped your boundaries and some mistakes tend to happen.
Me, it's never happened, that's Kakaluk. But I understand, yeah.
Yeah, so Kakaluk, imagine them as like an MYS, just the team crosses lines that they probably shouldn't sometimes.
Okay, cool. Chat, by the way, if you want to ask any questions to our guest or to doobsnax or I guess as well, we could be included in that. Feel free to throw them in chat, and I'll ask a few of them if we get some through. Doobsnax, any other questions about APAC West you wanted to drop?
Yeah, of the three teams that are going to be representing the region at Worlds, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. Which do you think has the best chance to bring home the World Championship title to the APAC West region of the three?
In their current state, from what I'm aware of, I think RRQ is probably in that position. Just because I've watched this team grow from the beginning of this year, that just seemed like a team that was EOR +4 become RRQ. To anyone out there, I'm not trying to disrespect the team, but they really did start off as like, you could see that it was really Eeyore that was carrying the team, that was nurturing and growing the team. And then as they played throughout ACL and then eventually through our WCS circuit, they really, really improved. And I've spoken to him multiple times. Like, he's so proud of their improvements. He even says, because he's played on multiple teams before this iteration of RRQ, they were known as Rise before being acquired by RRQ.
Oh,
he says this is probably
cool. This is Rise.
This is probably
got it.
Yes, it's Rise. He said this is the best team he has ever played on because everybody is motivated to win and get better. So yeah, I mean, I'm down for RRQ. I mean, I'm down for all of them. I mean, if Kakaluk if they bring home the trophy with their no support strat, I'm down too.
Okay.
But I think RRQ are probably the most equipped at this point. Like, they're really devoted to bringing home that trophy.
That's awesome. We talked a little bit before we turned on the broadcast about this, but someone in chat was asking, how does APAC feel about some of the more aggressive teams, like hyper offensive? They brought up Talibobo as an example, or maybe even LG in NA. Like, basically, do you know if these teams are like kind of looking to other regions as like, all right, we want to try to play like them, or we're trying to beat them?
Hell yeah.
Is there, okay, cool. What regions do you think they're kind of pulling from, or what teams?
Well, I know for a fact that I last spoke to, I think it was Necro from RRQ. Like, he specifically said that they are looking forward to playing against Talibobo.
Cool.
And I know from Eeyore that they take a lot of inspiration from Talibobo. So I'm keen to see these guys play against them. I even think like they look up to Talibobo. Like they're massive fans of them. So
sure.
I'm
but like rivals at the same time. They're excited to play. I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think like they're really excited to play. NYS, I'm not really too sure. I think they're more focused on playing some of the Japanese teams because they're looking for a little bit of revenge.
Okay.
From earlier this year. Because we've had other tournaments. We've had also like the winter tournament, if anyone remembers, which was like a an offline tournament that happened in like Japan.
Cool.
Before ACL.
You get so many lands. This is ridiculous. I'm so jealous.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, guys. Like, we've got all these like random tournaments happening.
I mean, we've had a few more this year, so I can't complain too much. But it is really exciting to watch ACL and winter tournament. So it's been a blast to be a fan from this side as well. So I enjoy it.
Yeah. Take a look again. Almost nobody knows anything about this team. I'm trying to see if I can get an interview with them because I do want to hear their thoughts going into Worlds.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, I hope I get to talk to them and sort of find out more about them because at this point, like, just if anyone watching, okay, if you go back to the stream, go back to I think it's like the lower bracket semifinals. It's like Cake Look against Moon 9.
Okay.
Watch that series. That series is whack.
Really?
It was so fun at the same time.
And that series was like
team,
that was a World's qualification game too, right? I believe
third spot.
Yeah, Moon 9 versus Clicklock would be whatever team wins that gets to go to Worlds, which is really, really cool. Yep. That's awesome. Can we get more of the three of us on a podcast in the future? Absolutely. As long as Danelie can make the time in the mornings for us, because she has to suffer through morning time when our NA brains can work. Cool. doobsnax, any more questions before we kind of close this out?
I am good. I'm good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the raids, Zen and Frog as well. I mean, I feel bad, but we're signing off here pretty soon. But before we go, Danelie, do you want to plug anything? Plug your socials? Anything upcoming that you want to use? I mean, sell out, shout out, whatever you'd like to do. The stage is yours. Feel free to plug all your stuff. Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter. I guess that's maybe my most active social media platform. I'm more of a shadow on social media. I've been trying to find time to get into streaming, so maybe that'll happen. I don't know. I'll announce on Twitter. But I guess like my one takeaway to everyone watching in chat is that I hope when you all enjoy Worlds, firstly, enjoy it. The games are going to be amazing. And secondly, make sure you go to Worlds with a very open mind because remember, we're seeing so many regions come together. They're going to clash for the first time. A lot of metas are going to come together. A lot of things are going to be discovered for the first time on the world stage. So give everyone a chance, cheer for everybody, and just enjoy the Worlds, right? Don't sit there and be a troll, like, oh my god, my team is the only one that I'm going to cheer for. Boo! Don't boo anybody. Give them all a chance. Have some fun. I promise you'll enjoy Worlds much more than that. And maybe cheer for APAC West because I promise they're going to give you some really good games.
Absolutely. I think watching these games has been so fun. I definitely think that we have a reason to be cheering for APAC West. It seemed like a lot of fun. doobsnax, anything you want to plug?
At Unite Mics on Twitter, follow us and stay up to date with all this cool region stuff we're doing, of course. Somebody asked, hey, are we VOD reviewing more regions? We are, so stay tuned.
Absolutely. Yeah, next week we're going to have more. I don't have confirmation of what regions we're quite doing. I am almost 100% confident we'll be doing APAC East next week. So look forward to that. But the best place to see all of that, of course, is Unite Mics on Twitter. All these episodes will be uploaded to YouTube, so youtube.com/Unite Mics, or you can watch them live here. We probably won't be uploading these to the podcast feed. Just there's a lot of visual elements. If you're just listening on podcast, it probably wouldn't work so well. But yeah, don't worry. OCE also in the working for schedule. Literally all the regions, if we can fit them. doobsnax and I are busy, but we're trying our best to get as many of these, because I mean, Worlds is huge. So I can't wait to do all these spectating. But thank you everyone for having and joining. But a very, very special thank you to you, Danelie, for teaching us so much about APAC West. This was so much fun. I'm excited to watch all three of these teams play. But until then, I'll see you all later, and have a good rest of your night or morning, depending wherever you are. Bye everyone.